So optimization is the art and the science of making more people perform desired actions. And I think you've just seen an example of exactly that in front of you. You're probably wondering what happened. I'll give you the second bit on the piece of paper now. You can ponder that. We might have time at the end to discuss it. Tom, what was the second bit on your, or the first bit actually on your piece of paper?
I saw two car accidents on my way here tonight.
I saw two car accidents on the way here tonight. At the back of the room, what was the first statement on yours? Pete, do you want to shout it out?
Well, I've got it in front of me, but it was something like McDonald's 489.
Yeah, 480 million cheeseburgers every day.
So two random, unrelated statements followed immediately by the same question produced a result that was predictable and could be optimized higher or lower. So let's just take a quick trip to Tesco, and I'll put this into context. Okay, cool. So optimization, what is it? Well, at a day-to-day level, it's simply the art of trying to make more people perform desired actions on digital interfaces. Web, mobile, apps, you name it, we do it. And this is an example of a test which I built and pushed live for Tesco today. And they have what they call a department landing page. So it's a particular category within Tesco Direct. And you'll see it's got a carousel, and then it's got some what they call navigation tiles. And the whole idea is that they want to get people to the area in the site with the right products that they're actually looking for. So that's what we call the default. That's what they've got to begin with. And they obviously identified a problem in data first. They weren't getting a great click-through from these department pages. So we created a series of experiences. I'll show you just two of them now. The first is a smaller carousel. Notice we've put a call to action button on it. And then we've changed around the navigation tiles from the original, which were grey with no sort of obvious indication, to that. And then another variation which actually put the navigation tiles at the top. So that's just an example of the sort of testing that we do for big brands in the UK on a daily basis. And hopefully you can see that that's just good old ABN testing. So you can read a lot of stuff on e-consultancy that talks about personalization, targeting, machine learning, behavioral targeting. Yes, that all happens. Yes, I do that on a day-to-day basis. But actually the majority of stuff is just good old basics of, I suppose in the old days, usability. Helping people to get to where they need to get to and proving that you can do that in an empirical way. Oh, dearie me. So when I was thinking about what to talk to you about tonight, yes, we could talk about some very fancy forms of optimization, but actually when every test, when I boil down every test that I create for clients down into its essence, it really does fall down to just 5 points. And if you can get these right, then your tests will win. If you can't, then it doesn't matter how fancy the targeting or the technology that you're using is, it will fail. So the first point that you've got to establish is what's the goal? And this is really hard sometimes for businesses to sort of, to decide on. They might have a page which many shareholders or stakeholders have a say in. They might have their own particular content in there, and they might think that their own metrics in their own world is far more important than anyone else's, and they're not prepared to play nicely. But the fact is you can't optimize a web page to satisfy all goals. So you have to identify them and prioritize them. And we call them macro and micro objectives. And we do it at a strategic level for a business and all the way down to a page level for an instance within a conversion funnel. Hone your value proposition. If people don't understand what it is you're telling them, then they're unlikely to take action on that particular page. And I received a really good piece of advice when I first started in CRO, which was never put anything on a web page that you wouldn't say to someone in a face-to-face sales environment. And I think that's great advice. If you imagine grabbing a total stranger off the street, saying, "Hi, I'm foolproof," and then slapping them with the headline that appears on your website, if you expect that reaction to be a question mark, then it's probably the wrong thing to put on your web page. People have to understand what you're offering them and why they should take action. So it's not just about that headline, it's everything on the page. Does the entire proposition gel together and culminate in a decision? Because that's the key point. You're not optimizing a web page or a website, you're optimizing a decision process, and that process occurs in chunks. The next point there is assess your call to action. If you don't ask people to do something, they're not going to do it. They're not going to figure it out on their own very easily and just make their way there. You've got to tell them what to do. You've got to make it clear how to do it. And you can do that in a variety of ways. It includes both design and it includes language as well. And that's the test that you've seen for Tesco. The layout was very important. What comes first on the page was very important. How should we design the button? Should it have a little arrow? Should we add a blue background to increase prominence? All of these things are going to improve the quality of those macro and micro call to actions. Consider conversion barriers and persuaders. So Duncan's not here tonight, so it's largely lost on him, but he's obviously got this... He is? Oh, hello! Great! Awesome. If you haven't seen Yodelay's new app for tracking your search and social performance, you really should download it. It's great. I'm playing around with it myself at the moment. I helped Duncan with this a few days ago, and we were really trying to figure out what are some of the barriers that are going to prevent people from wanting to download his app. And obviously the fact, is it paid or free? It's a really basic question. But it's a basic question that you have to address and answer, and if you don't, it could be an unintentional barrier. So just simply putting the label free down there removes one of those barriers and probably becomes a persuader as well. And fifth and last on the list is decide on the most influential elements. It's impossible to do everything all at once, so it's likely that you're going to need to pick the most important, most effective things on the page, optimize for those first, and then form a series of tests where you iterate through stages, taking the learnings from one phase into the next. And that's it, in a nutshell. Those are the top 5 things that I recommend you try and think of when you're doing testing. So when we break that down, would you believe me if I told you that the A and the B should be next to the word version? For Duncan, obviously the macro goal for his page, he wants people to click that magic download on the App Store button, but he accepts that people might not be willing to do that straight off the bat, so he needs to hone his value proposition and communicate that to people. So the micro objective is to get people to click the play button. That's the thing he wants people to do, because we know that if you watch the video, it's really clear and compelling, and the macro objective will be secured afterwards. But how should we get people to click that play button? How prominent should it be on the page in relation to the other content that's communicating the value proposition? Should we emphasize the fact that it's free in a prominent area on the page, or should we emphasize the call to action? Watch the video. Don't know. And what about the bullet points there and their relationship to the main call to action? We're talking about value proposition and improving the quality of our call to action. We know that the location of those two elements has an impact on conversion. So which way around should it be? Should we put the main call to action above the fold or below the fold adjacent to the value proposition? Don't know. And that's why we test. So Duncan has this running as an A/B test as we speak. While we're talking about it, a lot of people talk about the difference between an A/B test and a multivariate test. It's jargon at the end of the day, but it's jargon that has an explanation. In this case, we're only going to be able to tell whether version A generates more conversions than version B. We're not going to be able to tell in data which of those elements that I've identified is actually having the effect that is making one better than the other. A multivariate test, by comparison, does give you what we call element contribution. So it would say which one of those elements was the most persuasive, and that's sometimes a very useful thing to know when you're thinking about what to test next. This is a really important point, and it's one that I find myself saying to clients or reassuring clients with on a daily basis. It's just an experiment, and it's a really powerful tool that they use internally with stakeholders as well. We're not proposing to change the work that you've just spent 6 months building, and it's been a really difficult launch process. We're just trying to install a process of incremental improvement that's going to be ongoing. At the end of the day, it might win, it might lose, doesn't matter. It's just an experiment, and we're going to learn as much from our losses as we do from our successes. So getting that mindset right at an organisational level is crucial. I'm just going to leave you with this point. I call it the law of unintended consequences. It's well described, but I think it fits very well with optimisation. So I'm just going to play you a short video.
He's getting away with the WMD! I got him! Sarah, he's got the bomb. You gotta fix it.
I got him, Carson. He's heading for the Louvre. Your plans are over.
All right, Sarah. Yeah. All right, team.
Step into it.
All right. Bonjour, everyone. Don't worry. Everything is boom. We stopped the terrorists.
So, yeah, as a team of optimizers, I think it behoves you to understand all of the KPIs that indicate the health of your business and be measuring them and monitoring them at all times, even if they're not the thing that you're directly trying to influence in that particular test. It's very easy to push people through a hole, but if you're just destroying the brand value or the overall customer experience in the process, you've got to ask yourself the question, have you really won? Thank you very much for listening.